I see sales managers all the time make the same mistakes over and over when it comes to communication, specifically around coaching. And I think the foundation of those mistakes all comes from the same place, which is they don't realize, sales managers versus sales leaders don't realize that people walk around with what I call the communication filter, that we all have this filter that we send all the communication, the messages through. And so I brought one today. This is, you may have seen one of these before. This is what's called a LifeStraw. And what the LifeStraw does is it's designed to go camping with you. And the idea is that if I'm camping and I've run out of water suddenly, that I can find a dirty puddle and I just pop this thing off here and then I can put this in the puddle, believe it or not, one end in the puddle, one in my mouth, and I can drink this dirty water and it's going to filter out all the contaminants and the bad stuff and only let the good stuff through. But what happens is when this thing reaches about 1,000 gallons is the filter's so clogged that none of the good stuff comes through anymore. And I liken that to how we operate as human beings, because we're all just a sum of our experiences that we've had, good and bad, in life. And so if you imagine, we're all walking around with one of these on our head. And when I communicate with my salesperson, they've got one on their heads too, and it's full of and clogged with their insecurities, their fears, their bad experiences. The last sales leader they had that micromanaged them and just coached them too much, made them feel small and like they weren't very good. And not to mention all the experiences they had as a kid with their parents and coaches and teachers and school. I mean, it's just could be full of all kinds of stuff. When I go to coach them as a sales leader, if I'm not aware that people have these communication filters and some of them are pretty clogged up, then I give them what I feel like is really positive coaching. And what they hear is just a bunch of, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. And so as a sales leader, I need to be emotionally intelligent enough and aware that I really have to be careful in how much I coach and how I package the coaching. At the same time, when they're communicating back to me, I got to know that I'm no better than they are. I've got one of these too, and mine has its own fears and insecurities and bad experiences clogging it up as well. So it's our responsibility as leaders to understand that we have our own clogged filters and that our people have our clogged filters too. And so what can we do to navigate through those clogged filters? Well, we can understand there's different levels of communication that we're trying to accomplish. And so I want to share with you 3 levels of communication and the dangers of each level. And the first level is making contact. So making contact could be something simple like a quick email from me to my team, a text, a Slack. It's usually one-sided and it's not necessarily asking for feedback. A lot of times it can come out as a directive or as a command. It could be something like, hey, send me the report on this deal, or send me your pipeline, or send me this. The problem with these kinds of contacts that we make with our people is the recipient often doesn't understand the context, so they may not fully understand what the manager or the leader, in this case, we want them to do or how to do it. And also in the absence of any kind of information or context, a lot of times they take these one-sided contacts that we make as my manager's upset with me, I'm in trouble. They assume the negative. And what's interesting about salespeople, if there's a vacuum of information, they'll often fill it with the worst case scenario. Number 2 level of communication is conversation. This is the thing we enter into every single day. This is a two-way exchange of ideas and information. The problem or the danger with conversations, especially when you're communicating to someone that reports to you, is that what we call a conversation may actually just be 2 people making contact. It may just be the last level we talked about. It's just 2 people getting out their idea, getting out their directive, getting out their point of view, and not taking in and listening and evaluating, maybe because their communication filter's too clogged and they're not really receiving that other information from the other side. And so we present our idea and share our information, but what we don't do is we don't confirm that the information, the directive, the ideas, the coaching is understood by the other party. The last level of communication that we'll talk about is connection. So connection is actually contact or conversation when trust is present. So this is what we are ultimately striving for, right? It's not that contact or conversation by themselves are bad, but it's only effective when there's a layer or foundation of trust there between you and the person you're coaching. So when we have that connection, that trust is built by belief, and people believe what they see. And so our people, before we can ever have that level of connection where we can communicate at that very deep level, they need to believe 3 things in order to trust us as their leader. Number 1, they got to believe that we can. So what do I mean by that? Well, they got to believe that we are actually a capable leader, that we can lead them, not just be a leader in our industry and be knowledgeable about whatever industry I'm coaching them in, but also be knowledgeable about leadership principles and how to act and as a leader and to lead a team to a destination. So they got to believe that we can. Number two, they got to believe that we care, that they're not just another number in our forecast, but they're actually somebody that we care about as an individual, and they're important to us as a person, not just a person on my spreadsheet. And then finally, number three, they got to believe that we will follow through on the things that we say we're going to do, good and bad, positive and negative. And as we do these three things and they see and they believe that we can, we care, we will, we'll establish that foundation of trust. And then we can communicate on the deepest level, which is through connection. If you have trouble connecting with people and have trouble communicating with your team, enter your comments below, or maybe you have some tips about how we can get past the communication filter and open that up and what's worked for you. We'll see you in the comments below.